guy Willie stole treasure once, and then he got into this cave, and he's been there ever since. I'm setting booty traps.
You mean booby traps?
That's what I said.
I want to go home.
Don't say that. Goonies never say die.
Oh my God.
It was the start of the summer in 1985, and movie theaters were still buzzing in the aftermath of James Bond's A View to a Kill and Chevy Chase's Fletch. In a little less than a month, Back to the Future would become king of the 1985 box office, changing people's expectations of the movie-going experience forever.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Cyndi Lauper could be heard dominating the airwaves after winning a Grammy for Best New Artist that year.
Oh, Cyndi Lauper.
And on June 7th, smack dab in the middle of a decade that would be remembered for its materialism and consumerism, a little movie called The Goonies would capture the imaginations and kindle the fires of adventure in the hearts of children everywhere. While initially a box office hit, the film would go on to become a cult classic and first quintessential movie featuring a group of kids embarking on exciting adventures and navigating childhood. With lines like,
Goonies never say die.
Hey, you guys!
Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
and of course,
I'm setting booty traps. Booby traps. That's what I said.
children of the 80s have passionately shared the film with their kids, and now, more than 40 years later, a third generation of Goonies fans are growing up watching Chunk, Mikey, Mouth, Data, Brand, Andy, and Steph as they have an unexpected adventure that catches thieves and saves their homes, keeping the Goonies together forever, thanks to a little help from their friend Sloth. The movie has become a cultural artifact that celebrates friendship and adventure, routinely coming in on top 10 lists of the best movies of the 1980s. It would be the inspiration of movies like Super 8 and TV shows like Stranger Things, and create one heck of a tourist attraction for the small town of Astoria, Oregon. While there is no doubt in the movie's cultural relevance or place in box office history, we have some questions.
And if it's any help to you, I'd be glad to communicate.
Was the movie originally based on a true story? Did the director really hate the kids he was directing? What does Michael Jackson have to do with this story? What happened to and where are the actors today? And most importantly, is it true that after all these years, we are finally getting a sequel? Well, you are about to find out, because this is the definitive history of the Goonies, and you've never heard it told like this before. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so now, and give us a thumbs up if you want more videos like this. Also, consider supporting the channel by getting one of these limited collector's edition designs. Scan the QR code with your phone in the lower left corner of the video now. Use coupon code THEPOPCAST at checkout for a nice discount. There will be a direct link at the end of this video. Thank you for the support. Long before the young Goonies of the Goondocks were staving off criminals and finding hidden underground treasure on the big screen, there was an 11-year-old kid growing up in the sprawling community of Phoenix, Arizona. The year was 1957, and over the next several years, this young man would start to form friendships with a group of kids like himself that he called the Goon Squad. These kids couldn't throw a football or catch a baseball and usually had different kinds of disabilities and dysregulations. Soon, this boy would come to learn he and several of his friends were dyslexic. He didn't have a name for it then, but he knew it made him different. At the age of 12, this boy would pick up an 8mm camera and change the way movies were made forever.
The Oscar goes to, this is a big surprise, Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg would make his first movie at the age of 13, a 40-minute war movie called Escape from Nowhere with a cast of classmates. It was the beginning of something special that would eventually lead him to making Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Raiders of the Lost Ark,
Trust me.
and E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Those movies alone would earn over $2 billion at the box office by the end of 1982, and that was before the worldwide earnings were ever recorded. Today, those movies alone would have made more than $7 billion.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
The point is, the once Goon Squad member was now one of the biggest directors on the planet, and something had happened to him while filming on the set of E.T. After working with the children on the film, Henry Thomas and especially Drew Barrymore, the 36-year-old intensely self-focused director suddenly wanted to have children. This idea would have a profound impact on his life. A serious relationship with actress Amy Irving had ended with her leaving him just before production on Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. Until she left, she was actually set to play the female lead Marion opposite Harrison Ford. She would remain on Spielberg's mind. He'd created the production company Amblin way back in 1970 based on a short film he made while proving himself at Universal. Spielberg knew he didn't want to just direct movies, he wanted to influence the entire industry, so that meant becoming a producer to help other directors realize their visions. The unexpected and overwhelming success of E.T., which was the #1 movie of 1982, along with his thoughts of wanting to start a family of his own, would provide a new direction for his Amblin Entertainment Distribution Company, starting with a logo everyone would recognize. And as it would turn out, the late 30s director, a self-proclaimed big kid, had never forgotten his Goon Squad roots, and there were stories beginning to formulate in the back of his mind.
A small story and large characters.
It was late 1981, and 25-year-old Christopher Joseph Columbus was on the phone. He'd already received 25 rejections of a movie treatment he'd written, inspired by the nighttime scampering of mice in his Manhattan loft that was terrifying him. What had gotten him the phone call was a student film he'd made while attending NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. And the guy on the phone was Steven Spielberg. The director had noticed something in Columbus's work that reminded him of himself. It was the Peter Pan syndrome, or the capacity to relive your childhood over and over. Spielberg wouldn't be the 26th rejection of the movie that would eventually become Gremlins. Columbus would write the script, and the movie about a little creature you couldn't feed after midnight would be the first movie produced under the official Amblin Entertainment banner. Spielberg loved the writing so much. While Gremlins was in production in 1983, he asked Columbus to work with him on another script for an idea that was on his mind. Spielberg had been wondering, what would a bunch of kids do on a rainy summer day when they were bored? He had been a huge fan of the 1938 David O. Selznick production of Mark Twain's The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. The story was based on 13-year-old Tom and his girl Becky Thatcher, who get lost in a cave. They take on the nefarious Injun Joe and find his stolen gold. Spielberg's mind started to spin, and Columbus spent a week with him taking in as much of the details as possible. A few months later, Columbus had a draft which he called Goon Kids. It was set in the fictional town of Cauldron Point in New England. Columbus drew on his own childhood home in Youngstown, Ohio, where most teenagers dreamed of escaping with treasure they would find exploring the abandoned coal mines beneath their town. Also in early 1984, Spielberg was in Sri Lanka scoping out locations for the next movie he was directing, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Willie is my professional name. Indiana.
You call him Dr. Jones.
When someone told him that Amy Irving was shooting the 3-part miniseries The Far Pavilions in India, he decided to go and see her at the end of his trip. It would be the spark that lit up their relationship once more, and it would lead to something that changed Spielberg's life forever. Gremlins would release on June 8, 1984, and become a huge hit.
They might even replace the dog as the family pet.
Spielberg and Columbus worked on the new script together over the summer, and in September, Spielberg, the executive producer, was ready to send the script, now titled The Goonies, to the one director he knew would be perfect to make the movie. It couldn't be just anyone. He needed a Superman, or at least the guy who directed him.
Does that camera work? 3, 2, 1. 1, and action. Cut. That was awesome.
No one knew who Richard Donald Schwartzberg was, but they did know Richard Donner. The future 1978 Superman director would change his name in 1947 when he was only 17. Inspired by the 100-year anniversary of the infamous Donner Pass tragedy, where a group of settlers committed cannibalism to stay alive during a winter in the Sierra Nevada mountains, Richard thought it sounded a little like his middle name Donald and decided to go for it. Richard Donner was an actor in 1952 when his director told him, "You're terrible at taking directions, so you should just become a director yourself." So he did. Starting with westerns in 1960, Donner would go on to direct several TV series episodes, including 6 episodes of The Twilight Zone, and one of the most popular episodes where William Shatner played a terrified airline passenger who sees a gremlin on the wing outside his window. It wouldn't be until 1976 that Donner would get to direct his first movie, The Omen, which was well received. His work on The Omen would get him Superman. And when he proved he could make a man fly, it would make Donner one of the hottest directors in Hollywood. Spielberg loved Donner's take on Superman, and ironically, he was offered to direct The Man of Steel first. He would choose to make Close Encounters of the Third Kind instead. So Spielberg wanted Donner to direct The Goonies because he felt like he was gifted across so many genres. But most importantly, he knew him very well, and he knew that deep down, Donner was a bigger kid than he was.
It's a true story.
And if anyone could capture his vision, it was Dick Donner.
Brand, you're not going to believe it. The thing I was starting on, I was going to go in this thing and happened. She said, and almost touched me in the face with dead fish. The things it was scared.
Donner and his production partner Harvey Bernhard received the script. It was good. It was Steven. And most importantly, after 4 years of working on his latest film, Ladyhawke, he leapt at the opportunity to make a movie that seemed really easy to make at that time. Boy, would he change his mind in a few months. But more on that shortly.
It is the most difficult thing.
Donner agreed to make the movie, and he and Bernhard jumped in a car and drove up the West Coast looking for a location. Bernhard had a second home in Washington State and had relatives in the Pacific Northwest, so he suggested an out-of-the-way seaport town in Oregon called Astoria. They had found their Goondocks.
Ready, and shoot it. Number 1.
13-year-old Sean Astin was riding in the car with his father, John Astin. You might remember him as Gomez from The Addams Family. Sean's mother had been a famous child actor herself, winning an Academy Award at only 15 years old, and eventually starring as herself in The Patty Duke Show. But today was about Sean. It was the fall of 1984, and he and his father were on their way to Universal Studios and the Amblin Entertainment offices so he could audition for the part of Mikey in this new movie called The Goonies.
Mikey.
Sean wasn't exactly experienced at this. He'd only been in the one after-school special called Please Don't Hit Me, Mom, when he was 8, and a TV miniseries called The Rules of Marriage, where he worked for 9 weeks when he was 10 years old. The truth was, Sean didn't see himself as an actor. His parents were actors. He was a baseball player that liked girls. But the early 1980s were becoming a hotbed of activity for kids' movies, and with his parents as actors, it wasn't long before the agents would start throwing his name around for all of these parts. And while he was going down to read for the part in The Goonies, he was also preparing to read for a part in another kid movie that was being made called The Explorers. But first, it was Goonies. He'd been practicing his lines to perfection with his father. The scene, which never made it in the movie, was Mikey talking about how his father had been on a
game show, you remember? We all thought, this is it, out of the Goondocks for us. So we drove all the way to Hollywood. We got there, they put us in this big audience with a whole bunch of people in funny costumes. For some strange reason, he picked door number 3. So the game show host yells out, "Congratulations, you just won 100,000! And the big door opens up and there's a jar sitting in the middle of the stage, full of toothpicks. We won 100,000 toothpicks."
Sean was prepared, but he was also nervous. He'd seen E.T. and Indiana Jones, and he knew he was about to audition for Spielberg, who was already an incredible fixture in Hollywood.
Nothing extraordinary happens in this picture at all.
He walked in and met Spielberg's assistant, Mark Marshall. As he was leading Sean back to where he'd be auditioning, he asked the boy if he was nervous. "Yeah, I'm nervous," Sean told him. "Why?" Marshall asked. "You're about to meet the most powerful man in Hollywood." And with that, he swung the door open to the audition room, and there sat Spielberg, Donner, and Bernhard. And when he started reading his lines, he panicked. He forgot his line. He asked if he could look at the script again, and then he'd give it another try, but he forgot again. Then this little 13-year-old kid blurts out a word no one expected. "Shit," he said in frustration. And at that moment, Spielberg got up and walked out of the room. In Sean's underdeveloped 13-year-old brain, dejected, he told himself he would never make a movie in Hollywood. You probably don't want a kid, the star of your kid movie, to say the word shit. Donner got up from his chair and went over to him. He got down at eye level with the boy and told him what he wanted him to do. Sean remembered him explaining it like a friend would, and it being intimate. It was only him and Donner in that moment, and he was able to focus on the direction. He got up, delivered the lines again, although he still didn't think it was perfect. They thanked him and he left. He was angry at himself for messing up. When he got back to the car, he told his dad he screwed up. But his dad was surprised and told him he knew the lines so well. But it was okay. They still had a chance at Explorers. It's the movie his parents wanted him to do anyway. It was about these three boys who build a spaceship in their backyard and take it into space to meet aliens. His parents thought it was a deeper, more serious part for Sean and would be the better role for him. The stakes for the Goonies was fun, but the stake for Explorers was civilization itself. They went home to prepare for the audition and speak to their agent. His parents told the agent Sean was going to focus on Explorers. The agent said, "Oh, okay. Well, he was just offered the part in the Goonies. Are you sure?" Surprisingly, his parents wanted him to go for Explorers, but after giving it some thought, Sean said he wanted to do the Goonies. The reason? He thought the last scene in the movie was a kissing scene between Mikey and Andy. To his disappointment, the final kiss would be between Brand and Andy. But it was the thought of that kiss that made him choose the Goonies. And not that Explorers was a sure thing. They had offered him a test deal for the movie, which was a guarantee of nothing. As it would turn out, Sean chose the right movie. While Explorers would end up choosing future stars Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix as child actors, the movie also finished 85 spots below the Goonies at the box office. And while Explorers was a fun movie with more serious consequences, it wouldn't end up as a cult classic. It just goes to show parents don't know everything.
That's all right.
Spielberg would later tell Sean's dad that even before he opened his mouth, they knew Sean was Mikey.
Right on, Mikey.
What are we gonna do?
Go for it.
Go for what?
The gold.
Done. Terrific.
Good.
Terrific.
Well done.
It's mouth.
Hey, Mickey.
Corey Feldman was easily the most recognizable child on the set of The Goonies. His mother, Sheila Feldman, a former cocktail waitress at the Playboy Club and failed model, saw an opportunity to use her connections to get her son into a McDonald's commercial in 1974 when he was 3 years old. The family was struggling financially, and Sheila and her husband Bob, who was a struggling musician, saw an opportunity through Corey to create a better life for the family. It wasn't long before Corey was landing guest spots on popular TV shows like Mork and Mindy, The Bad News Bears, The Love Boat, and Cheers. These early roles showcased his charisma and natural screen presence, which helped him get bigger roles. His movie breakthrough came in the role of Tommy in 1984 in Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. Feldman was already a recognizable child actor with a long resume. The director wanted a charismatic and believable child actor to play a pivotal role in the film, and Corey's natural talent, expressive personality, and prior experience landed him the part. Spielberg needed a fast-talking 13-year-old who could be a mischievous character.
Aquí con las cucarachas por 2 semanas sin agua y sin comida.
Okay, Rosie?
According to Feldman, the audition was intense but exciting, and he felt drawn to the character's bold personality, which matched his own energetic style. But more important to Donner was that the children have good chemistry together. Corey embodied Mouth's brash charm, but more importantly, he meshed well with the other actors who would eventually be in the film with him. After multiple callbacks where he was tested for improvisation and group dynamics, he was eventually given the role of Mouth.
A fettuccine in 1981.
The only thing we serve is tongue.
No. Mike, hold this. Why me, Mike? Mike, take this up. There's a real big ball, you know, and it's got this big thing.
Jeffrey Cohen, who is 3 years younger than both Astin and Feldman, got his first taste of Hollywood when he was selected as one of the children describing words to contestants on the 1983 CBS game show Child's Play. It was a very short moment in the spotlight, but enough to get him excited about being a part of entertainment. His mother had recognized his outgoing personality and natural comedic flair, and since they were living in Los Angeles, she encouraged him to start auditioning for roles at the age of 9. It didn't take long for the overweight boy to find work. After being cast in a Ron Howard pilot called Little Shots that failed to get picked up at NBC, Cohen was cast in episodes of Tales from the Dark Side, Webster, The Facts of Life, and Kids Incorporated. But his life would be forever changed when 10-year-old Cohen walked into the offices of Amblin Entertainment to audition for the role of Mouth. That's right, Cohen initially came in to audition for the role that Feldman would get because he felt like he was good at impersonations, but it became apparent right away that Cohen was really a chunk. Besides the fact that he was overweight, Cohen's willingness to embrace the lovable, clumsy, food-obsessed character's physical comedy was exactly what they were looking for. But when he improvised the truffle shuffle during his audition and leaned into Chunk's quirky traits, it won over Donner and he got the part. Chunk would become an icon of pop culture and is easily the most memorable character from the Goonies to this day.
Do it!
Sometimes you were just in the right place at the right time. 13-year-old Ke Huy Quan was coaching his brother David. He had no idea what was going on, but his brother was auditioning for something, so Ke was saying, "Hey David, do this," and "Hey David, do that." Mike Fenton looked at the kid, noticed he had a lot of energy, and said, "Hey, do you want to try out?" Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom's casting director was desperate. He needed someone who could speak both English and Vietnamese. They also needed someone who could hold their own opposite Harrison Ford. Fenton had been literally all over the world trying to find the right child to play Short Round when he realized he hadn't tried Los Angeles. That's how he found himself at Chinatown's Casteller Elementary School, literally lucking into Ke. The kid had natural energy, quick wit, and embodied Short Round's spunky, street-smart vibe. Spielberg described him as having a fearless, instinctive quality with an ability to improvise, conveying both toughness and vulnerability. His maturity made sense considering what he and his family had been through after arriving as a refugee to the United States from Vietnam when he was only 8 years old. His work in front of the camera and performance as Short Round made him Spielberg's first choice for the Goonies. Once Ke was cast, the role of Data would be tailored to his personality, with memorable lines like, "That's what I said," "Booby traps," and "Wow, he is a big, strong man."
Wow! Look at that! It's the most amazing thing I ever saw!
17-year-old Carrie Green was in complete shock and disbelief when she got the role as Andy in The Goonies. It was her first movie. She'd done commercials for Jordache Jeans and Bold 3 detergent, but this would be her first performance on the big screen. The oldest of the Goonies, she was cast off an open audition after deciding to skip summer school and attend movie auditions in New York instead. And while she had no prior acting experience, her bold and authentic audition impressed Spielberg, and her chemistry was perfect for the role of Andy.
I'm not a Goonie. I want to go home.
Unlike Carrie, Martha Plimpton was born with an acting pedigree. Her grandfather, John Carradine, performed in more than 350 roles during a 58-year career in Hollywood, including the role of Aaron in The Ten Commandments. 3 of his sons would go into acting. David, who became famous as the Shaolin monk Kwai Chang Caine in the 1970s TV series Kung Fu, Robert, who you might recognize as Lewis from the Revenge of the Nerds movies, and Keith, who played Sheriff John Taggart in 2011's Cowboys and Aliens. In 1969, Keith and Shelley Plimpton performed in the original Broadway run of Hair and had a one-off romantic interlude which resulted in the birth of Martha in 1970. While she didn't grow up with her famous Carradine family, Martha spent her early childhood in and out of dressing rooms and backstage. So in 1978, Shelley put Martha into an actor's workshop. When she was 10, she was picked to model as a sophisticated but tomboyish young girl in a Calvin Klein ad campaign. The next year, Martha would get cast in her first movie, 1981's Rollover, which caught the attention of Tom Rickman, who was making the 1984 movie The River Rat starring Tommy Lee Jones. He was looking for a tomboyish girl to play the daughter of a paroled convict, and he was impressed by her ability to hold her own in scenes that required emotional depth and chemistry with Jones. Her role in The River Rat caught the attention of Donner and Spielberg, who wanted a witty and slightly sarcastic performance for the character of Steph. They needed someone who could hold her own against the boys. And after doing exactly that in her audition, Martha got the part.
Where are you? You're in the clouds, and we are in a basement.
But Plimpton wasn't the only child actor with a major acting pedigree. Josh Brolin's first acting role would be as the 16-year-old Bran. Despite his father being an acting heartthrob, his casting in The Goonies was a long shot. Josh's father, James Brolin, made a name for himself on the 1970s TV show Marcus Welby, MD, and then later as Peter McDermott on the 1980s series Hotel. He even nearly replaced Roger Moore as James Bond for the 1983 movie Octopussy. But while appearing in 3 episodes of Adam West's Batman in 1966, James Brolin would fall in love with his casting director. And in 1968, his first son Josh would be born. But unlike other children born to acting parents, Josh was raised away from Hollywood and had very little exposure to his father's work. In fact, he sorta hated it. At least that's what he told his friends. Right up until he tried acting in high school theater. He was improvising and making people laugh. He loved how it felt and decided he wanted to become an actor. At 16, he began auditioning for parts and said he was terrible. He was told no over and over again. It didn't matter that his last name was Brolin. In fact, that seemed to hurt him. Are you James Brolin's kid? Yes? Oh, okay. Well, show us you can act. It wasn't until later in the year, while he was auditioning for Spielberg and Donner, that he got lucky. And it wasn't because of his name. He had the right look. Sean Astin had already been cast as Mikey, and they wanted someone who looked like his older brother and could come across as a bit of a bad boy. But it was because of his name that he had to audition 6 times just to make sure he was right. And he was exactly who they wanted.
Is your mommy here?
No, sir. Actually, she's out at the market buying Pampers for all us kids.
To play the mama of the Fratelli gang / family, the producers knew they needed a tough, formidable actress that moviegoers would believe is the menacing matriarch, which brought them to Anne Ramsey, whose look, voice, and toughness in movies like 1978's Goin' South and 1980's Any Which Way You Can was exactly what the Goonies needed. A Broadway actress in the 1950s, she didn't begin her television and movie career until 1971. A character actress who would find work on Charlie's Angels, Wonder Woman, and Little House on the Prairie, while Ramsey had a look and performance people remembered, she hadn't yet come to fame. But some people were meant to play certain roles, and for Ramsey, the Goonies would make her famous to the world.
Jake, these boys are customers.
It would be very hard to talk about the casting for Jake and Frances Fratelli as individuals, since their chemistry together is what ultimately got them cast in the roles. The truth is, Robert Davi, who played Jake, and Joe Pantoliano, who played Frances, didn't like each other when they came to audition for the movie.
Davi and I had a very caustic relationship back in the day.
Well, didn't like each other as strong. Pantoliano referred to it as breaking each other's balls and argumentative.
I certainly didn't like him. I can only imagine that he didn't like me.
Our relationship was a lot of fun.
You see, Robert and Joe had worked together before. In fact, recently. Earlier in 1984, they had both done an episode of the TV show Heart to Heart together. Davi was already signed on to do Rambo First Blood Part 2 and was a little surprised his agent wanted him to audition for The Goonies. As he would put it, he was a Rambo kind of guy, not a Goonie kind of guy. But he also wasn't going to turn down an opportunity to work. When he got the audition, he was paired with Pantoliano, who was often referred to as Joey Pants. So Pants wasn't shocked when Davi tried to sabotage him during the interview.
I had my hairpiece on and he said, "You know, Joey wears a wig."
To which Joey ripped it off his head and said, "Yeah."
I pulled it off and moved it forward. I said, "Yeah, so if you want me to be younger, I mean, I could be younger, I could be older."
Spielberg and Donner loved it, and the actors never let up on each other even during shooting.
I like to tease it.
They were constantly fighting with each other off camera, so Donner started writing it into the movie.
So they basically put our hatred in the movie.
When Pants found out Davi had a parking spot next to Spielberg,
he stole his license plate off his car,
which then prompted Davi to nail Joey's dressing room shut while he was inside.
I couldn't get out. I was locked in my dressing room.
I absolutely nailed his dressing room door shut.
The constantly at each other's throats relationship would come through on the big screen and help make The Goonies the memorable film it is today.
What you see in The Goonies is really the evolution of our relationship.
The man who would play Sloth Fratelli and utter the unforgettable movie slogan, was 6'8" and 300 pounds. He was also a #1 NFL draft pick and a 2-time Super Bowl champion for the Oakland Raiders. John Matuszak had a reputation as being a wild man. The Tooz, as he was known, was wild on and off the field, and as his antics grew, so did his legend. As his NFL career was coming to an end, Matuszak turned his thoughts to a Hollywood career after sports. He had already played roles in 1979's North Dallas 40, as well as 1981's Caveman. His giant size and distinct facial features made him a target for unique characters and roles, which was exactly what Spielberg and Donner wanted for their deformed Fratelli brother. Once in makeup, the transformation was incredible. Donner, who was 6'2" himself, said when Matuszak was in makeup, it even scared him.
Hey, you guys! They're wonderful. They're nuts. They're the warmest, craziest little things that have come into my life.
54-year-old Richard Donner didn't have any kids of his own. In fact, he didn't want any. After 24 years of directing nearly every type of TV show and movie possible, Donner had dealt with nearly everything Hollywood had to throw at him. He didn't have a lot of experience directing children, but he'd handled a demonic 4-year-old in 1976's The Omen, and he'd handled a spoiled 9-year-old in 1982's The Toy. In fact, Donner thought Scott Schwartz was great and was impressed at the boy's ability to handle being talked to as an adult. What could go wrong with a gaggle of kids? Donner would quickly learn that the magic of the film would be in the chemistry of the children working together, and to get that would require testing his limits of controlling chaos.
I think the uniquest part of working with kids and this many kids in the film is that every night I'm contemplating suicide.
Principal photography on The Goonies began on October 22, 1984, and what was supposed to be a 3-month shoot would end up taking 5. The rules for kids on movie sets is that they had to attend school and could only actually work for 4 hours per day. School was an on-set trailer staffed by on-set tutors that was towed to the shooting location every day. Donner would have his hands full trying to get everything he needed on film in the short time he had the kids, especially since he wanted their performances to be as natural as possible. That would mean letting the kids be themselves, which meant spending a large portion of their 4-hour day just trying to get them on their marks for a scene.
Where are you going to be? Get your mark. Be there. Concentrate is right. Thank you. Now act.
It was normal for an executive producer to show up on set, but something different happened on the set of Goonies on November 4th, 1984. Steven Spielberg showed up and put his director's hat on to be a second unit director for Donner. This is very unusual, and while he would never say why he decided to do it, perhaps it was to help keep Donner on schedule, or maybe he just wanted to be a bigger part of the making of the movie since it was his idea. But this would have also been about the same time Spielberg would learn that his wife Amy was pregnant with his future son Max. Did he perhaps want to be around children at that time, since it would be huge on his mind having his own first child? Perhaps. Spielberg was incredibly busy with pre-production on Back to the Future, Young Sherlock Holmes, and The Color Purple, not to mention directing episodes of The Amazing Stories TV show. The two scenes that Spielberg shot as second unit director was when the kids bang away at the underground pipes and also the wishing well scene.
This isn't gold. This is a wishing well. Look.
Hey, you guys, look! It must be the old Moss Garden wishing well.
The Goonies cast quickly came together like a small family. The kids got along like friends, and sometimes they argued like siblings. And to them, Donner was their big, loud, impatient uncle.
Now think, I'm serious.
All right. Yeah.
Raise your right hand. Your right hand. You got it. Here we go. You ready?
His booming voice would direct the kids to hit your mark, say your line, hip hop, and their favorite being big eyes, which meant the director wanted them to look surprised, shocked, or afraid. And like kids, they would give him a nickname. They called him 3D for Director Dick Donner. It could have been worse. Only having the kids for 4 hours per day meant he had to push them and also do things a little less conventional from time to time. When Aston was struggling to deliver his lines for his One-Eyed Willie speech before the kids began their adventure, Donner told him, "Don't worry about delivering the lines perfectly. You know the story, just tell it back to me." This ad-libbing would not only make it easier for his child actors, but it would also make the delivery of the lines feel more natural, and that is exactly how it comes off on the big screen.
And then the British, they blew up the walls all around him, and he got caved in, and he's been there ever since. Forever.
Typically, actors wait for each other to finish a line before beginning their own. But that's not how kids speak to each other, so Donner just let them be kids. Later, the actors would do a lot of voice dubbing, and the sound editors on The Goonies should have received an award for all the extra work they had to do.
Yeah, well, at least I have a brain.
So stupid, Mouth.
But in the end, it made the film better. A couple of scenes that were shot but never made it into the movie also helped The Goonies be a better movie in the end. When the kids were banging on the pipes causing havoc above ground, one of the things we never saw was that it caused the escape of two gorillas named Bonzo and Bertha. The gorilla suits came courtesy of the 1984 film Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, but ultimately the suits didn't look realistic enough and was cut from the movie.
You know, the circus apes, their thing was stealing red vehicles. They shots of them stealing Troy's red Mustang and that sort of thing, and it all went away.
Another scene that never made the theatrical cut, but was ironically seen in some television broadcasts, was a scene where an octopus attacks Steph and Data uses bad 80s pop music to drive the animal away. In the end, Donner just didn't like it and thought the octopus looked too fake. So if you've ever wondered why Data says
The octopus was very scary
at the end of the film, it's because of the deleted scene. Despite Jeff Cohen being very outgoing and funny, he was embarrassed to do the truffle shuffle scene in front of the crew. He was also embarrassed by his size, so Donner had the set cleared. If you look closely, you can see little marks on Cohen's chest. He actually came down with the chickenpox shortly after being cast, but didn't tell anyone because he didn't want to be replaced. Despite being a wild man in real life, Matuzak as Sloth was great with the kids. He was a gentle giant with them, even after getting him wet, messing up his makeup, and losing a whole day of filming. His makeup took 5 hours to apply every day. One of his eyes was mechanical, and Matuzak had to actually learn to blink in time with the crew that were operating his other eye. Like the scene in which Sloth hoists Chunk into the air to celebrate their new friendship, Matuzak would often lift the kids in between scenes. Donner encouraged him to be a hero to the kids, to strengthen their on-screen chemistry, especially for Chunk and Sloth's story arc.
You're gonna live with me now.
I'm gonna take care of you.
Feldman, who was a huge fan of Michael Jackson, knew that Spielberg knew him and kept asking if he could meet him. Spielberg, who is known for playing tricks on kids to get them to respond a certain way on camera, told Feldman that Michael Jackson was on his way to the set while they were filming the pipe scene. So the shocked reaction you see on Feldman's face is real. But Spielberg would make good on his promise, and 3 months into filming, Michael and his sister LaToya did visit the set and meet the kids. He would invite them to the Jackson 5 Victory Tour at Dodger Stadium and give them tour jackets. Feldman would later have a close relationship with Jackson, becoming a late 80s mini-me of the King of Pop.
Okay, Brand, Michael Jackson didn't come over to my house. He was about to. But his sister did.
Jackson wasn't the only star the kids would meet. During filming, Spielberg decided to play a prank on his Indiana Jones star, Harrison Ford. There was a biography book out on Ford that he hated, and Spielberg knew it. So he invited him to the set one day, and when Ford got there, everyone was reading a copy of his biography. Everyone. Spielberg had gone out and bought 300 copies and given it not only to the cast, but to security guards, gaffers, and the camera equipment crew. You can imagine that famous Harrison Ford eye roll upon walking into the set. There are lots of little stories on set, from Cohen believing he was losing weight during filming, so the crew kept leaving sweets laying around for him to eat, to the kids intentionally mucking up scenes to do a coordinated can-can dance. Yes, that really did happen. Which may lead you to understand some of Donner's frustration. But if you've ever wondered why Data spells out S-H-I-T instead of says it, he had a good reason. He didn't want to upset his mother. He was supposed to curse, but knew he wasn't supposed to. So when it was time to deliver the line, he spelled it instead. Donner loved it, so he kept it in the movie. Donner was always trying to get the best reaction from the kids. His crew had spent 2.5 months building a 105-foot-long One-Eyed Willie pirate ship called the Inferno, and he banned the kids from seeing it. He wanted to get their genuine first reaction on film on just how amazing it was.
I never let the kids see this boat. They were banned from the stage from day one.
But according to Aston, one day the doors to the ship were wide open, and he saw it along with Feldman. But it was obvious who hadn't seen the ship in advance because Brolin ruined the take by yelling, "Holy shit, fuck," to which Donner told him, "You can't say fuck in this movie." Hilarious. But even the kids who saw it early nailed it, and for decades, the producers thought they'd pulled a fast one on them. Brolin wasn't the only one impressed with the ship. If it looked huge on the big screen, it's because it was. Mike Riva, who was responsible for construction, took the blueprints from Errol Flynn's 1940 movie, The Seahawk. He built the interior of the ship so that the inside was a stage. Normally, that would be done on an alternate set. But the crew wanted the fantasy the kids were experiencing to be real. Davi would later say the ship was so impressive. When he filmed 1992's Christopher Columbus: The Discovery, the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria could have all fit inside One-Eyed Willie's pirate ship. Some of the ship's rigging was recycled from Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean ship, which was being renovated at that time. More than 900,000 gallons of water was used in the movie, and to get the water around the pirate ship looking blue, dye was used. The water was also warmed to keep the actors and crew comfortable during filming. But the set was closed, so the warmth created a condition where one day it started raining blue rain while they were shooting. The set had to be opened up to clear out the rain cloud that had been created inside. If you look closely at the end of the film where the police find the Goonies, one of those police officers is Richard Donner.
Well, I'll be damned. It's them goobers.
They weren't here a minute ago.
But they're here now, Dan.
They were having trouble getting actors to the set that day, so he stood in. Also, there was an alternate ending where Lupe Ontiveros, who plays the non-English speaking housekeeper Rosalita, comes running out of the house after finding rubies. But Donner decided he wanted the backdrop of the pirate ship sailing out of Bodega Bay, north of San Francisco, and had to change Rosalita's ending to finding the gems in a bag outside instead.
Ay, Dios mío de mi vida.
Also at the end of the film, most of the parents of the kids are their actual parents, including Key's mom, who had cooked Vietnamese food on a wok and a Bunsen burner for the cast and crew while they were on location. All of the underground scenes, as well as where the Goonies find One-Eyed Willie's ship, were filmed at Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank, California. Filming ended in March of 1985, but the kids would still have one more thing to shoot. The Goonies' original soundtrack features songs by popular 80s artists like REO Speedwagon and the Bangles. But what most people remember is Cyndi Lauper, thanks to the signature song and memorable music video, The Goonies' Good Enough. Of course, what makes the video so memorable is all of the incredibly popular wrestlers of the day that were in the video. From Andre the Giant to Rowdy Roddy Piper and even the Iron Sheik, among others. When Spielberg was looking for the music for the Goonies, it was incredibly popular at that time to have a chart-topping song coincide with the release of the movie. Footloose, Purple Rain, and Ghostbusters crushed the 1984 box office with their hit songs, and they were going to follow the same path with the Goonies. Lauper had been all over the airwaves in 1984, with songs like Time After Time, True Colors, She Bop, and especially Girls Just Wanna Have Fun. All from her She's So Unusual album, which went 6 times platinum in the United States. So on February 26, 1985, when she won Best New Artist at the 27th Annual Grammy Awards, Spielberg knew who he wanted for the soundtrack of The Goonies. He invited her to be the music director for the soundtrack and to select other performers she liked. When Good Enough was chosen for the title song, it was decided that Donner would direct a 2-part video that brought Lauper into the Goonies world. The first part of the 12-minute video would tease the upcoming movie, and then when the movie opened, the second part would hit MTV in a full-on marketing campaign. If you ever wondered why the video featured wrestling legends, it was because at that time it was a huge part of Lauper's brand. When she released her debut solo single Girls Just Wanna Have Fun in 1983, it was flopping so badly her record company had given up, giving her 2 weeks to turn the single into a hit. At that time, the World Wrestling Federation was huge, with characters like Hulk Hogan and the others we've mentioned. But a chance meeting with wrestler Captain Lou Albano would allow Cyndi to create a relationship with WWF. After including Captain Lou in her video Girls Just Wanna Have Fun and WWF TV appearances where Lauper would get in his face over sexist comments, her song blew up. So when it came time to make the huge Goonies Good Enough video, having wrestlers as main characters just made sense. While the song would only end up reaching number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1985, thanks to extended plays of the song and video on MTV, kids were ready to see the Goonies on the big screen.
Well, the first thing you I don't know.
With about 2 weeks left of filming, Donner was tired. It had been a long shoot, trying to keep all of the chaos in check and staying on time for their June release date. He'd started telling Spielberg that while he loved the kids, he was tired and needed to get away from them. As soon as filming was done, he was heading to his house in Hawaii to get away from everyone and get some peace and quiet. And since adults can't really hide their true feelings from kids, it became well known on the set that Donner was ready for a break, which led Cohen to teasing the director by coming onto the set with a big Hawaiian shirt, a hat, and a camera around his neck and telling him, "We're coming with you."
All right. Yeah.
Raise your right hand. Your right hand. You got it. Here we go.
Ha ha, funny joke, Donner would say. But Spielberg wasn't one to let a fun joke go by. So he told the kids not to pay attention to Donner toward the end of filming. The director started wondering if the kids were sad because it was almost over. But that wasn't it.
This last week was very strange. They were very alienated to me, and I thought, well, I don't know that much about children, I guess.
Spielberg was buying tickets on American Airlines and sending everyone over to surprise Donner at his house in Hawaii. Someone arranged for Donner to be out shopping when the kids arrived. They went into his house, opened up their suitcases, and threw their clothes everywhere, and then positioned themselves on the couch, in his bed, out in hammocks around the place, and everywhere. When Donner showed up at his house, he was shocked. Plimpton said his face turned white as a sheet, and they thought he was going to have a coronary. Then, suddenly walking up out of the surf was the Fratelli family. And according to Joey Pants, Donner just kept saying, "What the f***" over and over again. Everything ended in an uproar of laughter.
If anybody tipped it and I found out they were coming, the trip would be off. So that week of total alienation was the best acting those kids ever did.
While it was at Donner's expense, the Goonies family had one more moment together.
We bought out the supermarket, had a great barbecue. They stayed the night, and then he was going to fly them to another island, and they were going to get a vacation because he wasn't going to impose. It was one of the great put-ons. I called Spielberg and I said, "Watch your back, pal."
Aston would later say that Spielberg played the joke, but it was really a way for him to honor everyone for the work they had done. Early on, Donner had told everyone he thought this movie was going to be a classic. The Goonies opened on June 7, 1985 in 1,705 theaters and would ultimately earn $61 million in the US against a $19 million budget. It would end up being the 7th biggest movie of the year, just behind Witness, starring Harrison Ford, and just in front of Police Academy 2. The number 1 spot in the box office that year would go to Spielberg's other movie, Back to the Future, which earned $190 million at the domestic box office.
I've never seen purple underwear before, Calvin.
Ironically, had Davi stuck with Rambo First Blood Part 2, he would have been in the 3rd biggest film of the year that grossed more than $150 million. But history would view his choice of The Goonies as the correct one. When Donner told everyone he thought the movie was going to be a classic, he was right.
How long have you guys been standing there?
Long enough, Mikey. Long enough.
The Goonies fell smack dab in the middle of the new VHS craze. At that time, you could see a movie in the theater, wait for it to come out on HBO, if you were lucky enough to have it, or you could rent or buy a VHS tape. And a generation of kids would grow up with Goonies VHS tapes hanging out of their VCRs, waiting to get home from school and pop it into the deck for yet another watch. And when that generation grew up, they showed the movie to their children. And today, those children are now showing it to theirs. It's been over 40 years since the release of The Goonies, and fans are still talking about one of their favorite 80s movies today, whether on the internet on sites like Facebook and Reddit, or at conventions where members of the original cast are answering questions and retelling stories of the cult classic.
Like, there's one thing where Chunk is eating the ice cream, and you can hear Dick Donner, the director, laughing. Like that, like you just laughed.
Following the release of The Goonies, gaming companies didn't waste time cashing in on its success. Datasoft produced a Goonies video game for the Commodore 64, Atari, and Apple II computer. The game featured 8 screens in which a player had to use 2 members of the Goonies group to solve puzzles and reach the next stage. As the movie began to grow in popularity, so did the city of Astoria, Oregon, which began receiving visitors looking for the movie's filming locations. In 2010, at the 25th anniversary of The Goonies, more than 15,000 people showed up for a celebration weekend, and June 7th was officially named Goonies Day in Astoria. By the 30th anniversary, the Walsh home was receiving up to 1,500 visitors per day in the summer, and at the 40th anniversary celebration in June 2025, love of the movie only continued to grow as cast and crew of The Goonies, including Green, Feldman, and Davi, all showed up back at the Goondocks to celebrate the movie's legacy.
Devin Haskins joins us live from Astoria. Hey, Devin. Hey, you guys! Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Saying that.
A lot has happened since the movie released more than 40 years ago. Back when Donner was filming, he would think that Sean Astin has incredible focus and he thought he would go on to direct someday. As it would turn out, he would go on to direct 4 episodes of mostly forgettable television, but 9 years after The Goonies, in 1994, he would star in the inspirational football film Rudy. Then from 2001 to 2003, he would land his most memorable role to date as Samwise Gamgee in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. In 2019, he played the role of Bob Newby in the hit Netflix series Stranger Things and continues acting to this day. Feldman's star would continue to rise in 1986's Stand By Me, where he also tried drugs for the first time thanks to some local kids he started hanging out with on location. His parents had divorced when he was 11, and his father was his manager. Corey was beginning to feel like his mother was being abusive. When he turned 15, he took his parents to court so that he could be emancipated and take control of his life. Feldman claimed his parents mismanaged and stole a large part of his earnings. After he earned approximately $1 million by the time he was 14, he discovered that only $40,000 was left in his bank account. In order to receive his emancipation, Feldman claimed he had to give his father that $40,000 as well. He was broke, but free from his parents' control. In 1987, he starred in The Lost Boys, but living on his own meant spending time with older people in the entertainment industry, and he was eventually introduced to a variety of drugs. He would also star in 1988's License to Drive, as well as The Burbs, and Dream a Little Dream in 1989. Feldman would go on acting and pursuing a music career, claiming to find sobriety in his mid-20s. Today, Feldman is still actively engaging in both his music and acting careers.
Get this lame-o out of your yard!
Get out of my yard, lame-o! Hey! Hey!
Cohen would continue acting until he was about 17, but he never found the success that his other co-stars would have in the movie business, at least not as an actor. Cohen would eventually drop the weight and become a successful Hollywood entertainment lawyer where he practices today.
What are you doing? It's like you guys made movies before?
After The Goonies, Key would find only a few roles as opportunities for Asian actors were scarce at that time. Key was a huge fan of Jackie Chan, especially after studying Taekwondo on the set of Temple of Doom. He'd continued his study over the years, and in 1998, he was studying film at the University of Southern California. One day, he was visiting his sister at her travel agency. In the same mall, shooting for Lethal Weapon 4 was underway, and behind the camera was his Goonies director, Richard Donner. While visiting the set, he also met with the movie's action director, Corey Yuen, who was working with Jet Li on the film. Key had a great conversation with Yuen, telling him he was interested in his line of work and only had a year left in school. A year later, Yuen called Key and asked him if he could fly to Toronto on short notice and help him with the fight sequences in his new film, X-Men. Key became a sponge, learning everything he could. He spent the next decade working on productions in the United States and in Hong Kong. But it wasn't until 2018, when he saw the success of Crazy Rich Asians, that he allowed himself to think about performing in front of the camera again. That's when he found himself being cast in the 2022 movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. Suddenly, the kid who played Short Round and Data was a Hollywood darling again. And who negotiated the deal for his movie comeback? It was lawyer Jeff Cohen, Chunk. At the 95th Academy Awards, where Key won Best Supporting Actor, he thanked Cohen, calling him his Goonies brother for life.
And my Goonies brother for life, Jeff Cohen.
And in February 2025, Brolin, Cohen, Green, Feldman, and Goonies writer Chris Columbus all showed up for Key's hand and footprint ceremony at the TCL Chinese Theater in Los Angeles.
Hey, you guys.
The love interest of Bran, Mikey, and bad boy jock Troy Perkins, Green would pivot her success as a Goonie to other popular 80s movies, including the 1985 John Candy film Summer Rental and 1986's Lucas, where she played opposite of Corey Haim, future best friend of Corey Feldman. But that's another story for another day. Green would bounce around Hollywood for a few years, doing mostly made-for-TV movies and series guest appearances. In 1999, she co-founded a film production company and wrote and directed the film adaptation of a play about teen pregnancy called Belly Fruit. When the film wasn't well received, Green took a break from acting to study at Vassar College. Her last screen role was for the 2012 film Complacent. Today, she lives in Los Angeles with her husband and 2 children, where she continues to write screenplays for Hollywood while mostly staying out of the public eye. As of the making of this documentary, she continues to engage with fans through conventions doing Goonies reunions.
All I can picture is that Andy would probably still be in that tennis dress but drinking martinis.
Martha Plimpton would take her tomboyish looks and intense acting and go on to movies like 1988's Running on Empty, 1989's Parenthood, and 1996's Beautiful Girls. As of the making of this documentary, Plimpton has been in nearly 100 roles and continues acting on stage, television, and in the movies.
Hey, Mom. Tommy. Hey,
The Goonies seemed like the beginning of a hopeful career for Brolin. But while he was cast in various projects, nothing seemed to click. He missed out on the starring role of 21 Jump Street in 1987 to Johnny Depp, and that followed a string of mostly forgettable roles. By 2006, acting didn't seem to be panning out, so Josh had begun trading stocks nearly full-time. But sometimes serendipity intervenes. Brolin had landed a part in the Robert Rodriguez Grindhouse portion of Quentin Tarantino's Planet Terror movie.
Robert Rodriguez.
While on set, Josh had gotten word that the Coen brothers were making a movie for a part he really wanted, but he couldn't get to the audition. So he asked Rodriguez if he would help him make an audition tape for the part. Rodriguez suggested they use the $1 million Genesis camera they were using to shoot Grindhouse with. Tarantino directed and read opposite Josh while Rodriguez shot and lit the scene. When the Coen brothers saw it, they didn't care about Josh, but they were incredibly impressed with how the audition was shot. The movie they were making was No Country for Old Men, and they had already cast Tommy Lee Jones and Javier Bardem in 2 of the main 3 roles. The third actor needed to be someone who could be an equal weight to the other 2. And the Coen brothers, who had become very successful from movies like Fargo, The Big Lebowski, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, had the clout to wait for nearly any actor they wanted. And Josh Brolin wasn't it. But Brolin also wasn't taking no for an answer. After a lot of persistence, the Coen brothers finally agreed to meet him in person. In a room with the brothers, Brolin transformed into Llewellyn Moss, and the part was his. No Country for Old Men would go on to win 4 Oscars and set Josh's path to stardom. From American Gangster to playing George W. Bush in W, Brolin would quickly become an A-list actor. After playing Thanos for Marvel and Gurney Halleck in Dune, Josh continues to demand roles. And if you ask him, his success in large part can be traced back to a piece of advice he got on the set of The Goonies when he was 16.
And I came to Steven at some point, we were in one of the tunnels, and I said, "Hey, Steven, can I talk to you for a second? Don't you think that the tunnels kind of represent my mother's womb? And like, what if we film me kind of climbing up the tunnel, but really I'm trying to cut that emotional umbilical cord of my mother, and I could have tears coming down my face." And I went into this whole thing, and I was getting all excited because he was nodding his head. And then I waited. And then he looked at me and he said, "Why don't you just act? Just say the words on the page, you'll be fine."
Josh would say those words never left him. Davi and Joey Pants would go on to become famous character actors, performing in more than 330 roles combined. Davi would lend his voice to popular video games like Halo and Grand Theft Auto, and Pants would be remembered for movies like Memento, The Matrix, and Bad Boys, as well as a stint on The Sopranos.
Displaying finesse and subtlety in achieving the goal.
We didn't sing it.
Both actors, who are now 74 years old, continue acting today.
Yeah, I was Mama's favorite. I wonder if I was Annie's favorite. I think I was Annie's favorite in some ways.
If you ever wondered why Anne Ramsey slurred her speech a bit, it was caused in part from having some of her tongue and jaw removed during surgery for esophageal cancer in 1984 before filming for The Goonies. Ramsey would reach her highest moment of fame in 1987 with the Danny DeVito Billy Crystal movie Throw Mama from the Train. Sadly, only a year later in 1988, her cancer returned and she passed away August 11th at 59 years old. Sloth would end up being the pinnacle of Matuzak's acting career. He would continue acting, most notably in 1986's One Crazy Summer, but the wild man would ultimately never be tamed. As a result of his injuries on the football field, Matuzak would turn to prescription and illegal drugs to cope with his chronic back pain. On June 17, 1989, he was found dead as the result of an accidental overdose of the prescription drug Darvocet, and traces of cocaine were also found in his bloodstream. He was only 38 years old. Chris Columbus would write The Goonies, but his true future was as a director. After taking on 1987's Adventures in Babysitting, Columbus would land Home Alone in 1990. He would also go on to direct Robin Williams in Mrs. Doubtfire and Bicentennial Man, as well as 2 Harry Potter movies. After making Pixels in 2015 with Adam Sandler, he took on The Christmas Chronicles Part 2 with Kurt Russell. At 67, he continues directing to this day.
None of us are naive enough to think that every film we make is going to change people's lives, but you hope.
Kidding, we are all gonna die.
The world probably knows more about what happened to Steven Spielberg after The Goonies than anyone else who participated in this film. It could have been argued that he was the greatest director of all time before 1985, but in the eyes of most people, he is certainly that today. As of 2025, Spielberg has grossed a total of $10.7 billion at the box office, directing 28 movies since June 1985. Thanks to movies like Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, and Saving Private Ryan, Spielberg continues to break new paths into the Hollywood landscape. Just days before his son was born in June 1985, Spielberg told Gene Shalit and the world that this directing and producing stuff was just too much work, and he would go back to focusing on directing so he could have more time with his upcoming family. At that time, he'd produced 9 films. Since then, Spielberg has produced 191 titles and found a way to raise 7 children. As he nears the age of 80, Spielberg is still directing and producing as he continues to pave a path for Hollywood's future.
Your instincts, your human personal intuition, always whispers, it never shouts. Very hard to hear. So you have to, every day of your lives, be ready to hear what whispers in your ear.
Richard Donner was right about The Goonies becoming a classic. The reality is, pretty much all of the 18 movies Donner directed are really good, if not great. After The Goonies, he would go on to make the Lethal Weapon movies, Scrooged, Radio Flyer, Maverick, Timeline, and 16 Blocks. And us Superman fans are grateful for his cut of Superman 2. Donner was a tough director, but he knew how to make good movies. And a lot is said about how much Richard Donner hated kids and didn't like making The Goonies. But if you want to know how he truly felt about his cast, actions will always speak louder than words. When Jeff Cohen wanted to go to college but didn't have enough money to pay for it, Dick Donner paid for it. When Corey Feldman needed life-saving rehab, Dick Donner paid for it. In later years, Donner would talk about working with the children on The Goonies as being the best time in his life. He said, "I never had kids of my own, and they became like my family." And as much as he loved them, his cast loved him as well, often referring to him as the uncle or father they never had. Richard Donner would sadly pass away in 2021 at the age of 91. In an interview with Variety, Cohen would say the following: "Dick Donner was and is my favorite person in this world. He is the best person I've ever known. He is remarkably talented, remarkably kind, remarkably loving, and as an artist, Dick Donner is one of the greatest film directors of all time. He directed the greatest superhero movie of all time with Superman. Without him, you don't have Tim Burton's Batman, and you don't have all the Marvel movies without Superman. He directed one of the greatest kid movies of all time with The Goonies. He directed one of the greatest horror movies of all time with The Omen. He directed one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time with Scrooged. And he directed some of the greatest action movies ever with Lethal Weapon. What director can make stellar films in all those categories?"
And
In 2017, The Goonies was selected into the National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Never say die is what fans have been saying about a Goonies sequel for years. In 2004, Donner and Spielberg had been working on an idea for a sequel.
Yeah. You're doing it.
I'm doing it with Steven.
With Steven?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Dick, do you think that means we can have a job in this?
But they would only make one if the story was as good as the original. In 2007, Aston told MTV that Goonies 2 is an absolute certainty.
They're actively trying to secure a writer based on an outline that they feel really confident.
Both in 2010 and 2014, Donner announced that a sequel was definite, and he hoped to bring back the whole cast. In 2020, Spielberg said that he, Donner, and Columbus get together every couple of years.
Every couple of years we come up with an idea, but then it doesn't hold water.
Then, out of the blue, in January 2025, Deadline reported that Warner Brothers was developing a sequel for The Goonies. Then, on February 14th, the official announcement for The Goonies 2 came out, with Potsy Panciaroli writing the script and with Steven Spielberg producing for Amblin Entertainment alongside Columbus, and Lauren Schuler Donner, Richard's wife, executive producing. As of the making of this documentary, a first draft of the script was very well received by Warner Brothers, and a second draft is near completion.
I turned in the first draft, it was very well received, and I'm on the second draft that I
No word has been given on whether any of the original cast will return, but Brolin and many of his castmates are hopeful a sequel will get made regardless if they are in it or not.
That it is a reality, it is a sequel, that the original cast would be factored into it somehow, maybe even prominently. I don't know directly yet, but...
While an official release date has not been announced, should pre-production begin soon, Goonies 2 could be out as soon as summer 2027. But take as much time as you need to make it great.
So you can't do a film just because it'll be successful at the box office. You have to do a film that people will not be disappointed by. So that's really what we're looking for now.
The Goonies is a movie about friendship, underdogs, adventure, and hope. What child hasn't hoped they would unexpectedly find hidden treasure and pull their family out of poverty, let alone be able to do it with a group of your best friends? It was this genuine portrayal of youthful fantasy, expertly portrayed on screen, that captured the hearts and minds of a generation of children that today sit with their children and even their grandchildren, watching the movie for the 10th or 100th time and feeling that nostalgia of a time when things were more simple and anything was possible. And for that reason, The Goonies will always be a beloved classic. Donner was so right. But what do you think? Where does The Goonies rank among your favorite childhood movies? Who was your favorite character and why? What is your fondest memory of watching The Goonies as a kid? And do you want them to make a Goonies 2? If so, what do you think the story should be? Share all of this with us in the comments below. We'd love to talk with you about it. If you enjoyed this definitive history and would like to hear the behind-the-scenes stories on how we made it, and perhaps some of the things we left out, just click on the join button and become a member of the channel, where we host a live interactive show after each new video. And once again, thank you for supporting the channel. We couldn't do this without you. A link is about to pop up that will take you directly to these limited collector's edition designs. Every dollar earned goes towards making our next video. Don't forget to get a nice discount by using coupon code THEPOPCAST at checkout. Until next time,